Hi, my name is Cynci Peterson, and I'm the director of the Hope Venture and the host for today's podcast, Teaching Our Kids to Live and Love Generously. This is the first in a 4-part series we'll be doing, and as many of you know, we're passionate about helping people grow in their generosity. We're so excited about this series. Much of our day-to-day here at the Hope Venture is spent following up education and health projects for people in extreme poverty in 5 different countries around the world. But we can't do that work overseas without this fun, generous hub of people here that make that happen. So this month, we're going to pause for a few minutes and focus our attention on our donors and ways we can try to help you enjoy your journey. So this month, we're going to pause for a few minutes and focus our attention on our donors and ways we can try to help you enjoy your journey of generosity. Specifically, we're going to talk about parenting generosity, about things we can do to give our kids a love for helping others, helping our kids look outside of themselves to see the needs around them. Personally, I have 4 boys, and I know I've tried a lot of things. Many of you have also shared with us some of your efforts to teach your kids. So we're going to have a fun treat for y'all as we have a different guest each week come on and join us. We'll talk with each guest about some passages in the Bible that have inspired us towards this and what they've done specifically with their kids. We'll end each episode with a challenge for each one of us as we respond. So get ready. We're going to have some fun in store for you. Right before we dive in, if you have young kids, currently you're trying to get some ideas from this podcast, you're especially in luck. If you go to the link in our Instagram bio, in the podcast description, you can download a PDF of an activities page for your kids to work on while you listen so you don't miss anything, or at least you miss less. So again, go to the link in our Instagram bio in the podcast description. If you have young kids, download that PDF. They can color. You can listen to this. You can also go to our website. At the footer, there's a resources section. Click that. That should also get you this PDF. So we're excited. All right, here's what we're going to do. Today, for our first episode, I have Veronica Torgerson with me here. Veronica's been a longtime donor with us. She sponsors a couple of kids in Kenya with us. She's come to a couple of our Night for Hope events, and happens to be the sister-in-law.
How does that work?
You're the sister-in-law.
I am a sister-in-law
of Josh, who works here. All right,
Josh is my brother-in-law.
Yeah, Josh is your brother. All right, okay. Yeah. That's awesome.
We're related.
Anyway, we're just so glad you're here. Welcome. Have you had a good morning this morning?
Busy, you know. Take the one kid to school, drop another kid off with a grandma. Keep a third kid toting along with me.
Yeah.
We're doing it.
Yeah, you're making it happen, huh?
Yeah.
I suppose that's like a lot of our listeners. If there's any moms and dads out there trying to learn to teach their kids generosity, they're also in that stage of trying to juggle all the things, get them off to school. This weather has been not exactly easy on parenting, probably. Being
stuck in home, in your house, literally physically in your house for days on end.
With young kids. Tell us, Veronica, the ages of your kids right now.
So my oldest, West, is 4. I have to get this right because we were at the doctor last week, and I told them the wrong age, and they have it on their paper, so I think they were judging me. So my oldest, West, is 4. My second, Willa, is 2. And then Winslow, who's sitting over here with me, is 6 weeks. No, she's 8 weeks. She's almost 2 months.
Yeah, almost 2 months. Mm-hmm. So you are a rock star right now. You have 3 young kids, 4 and under, right? Mm-hmm. West is 4. Yep. And even just making it here, I just want to say when I had 3 young kids, we had 3 and under. And if I just took a shower, I was feeling pretty good.
Oh, for sure.
So to make it here to our office and be here with us, thanks. Shout out to you. That's awesome. We're so excited to have you, Veronica. Veronica, I want to ask you also just to give people an idea of what your life is like. I mean, we have guesses of each other's lives, but it's amazing how different families are. Tell us a little about the day-to-day, like what's West into these days? What's kind of a typical day or week look like for your family right now?
Yeah. Well, with a 2-month-old, I don't know that we have a typical because we're still trying to learn how do you survive? How do you be enough for 3 kids for a whole day? So we're just sort of in survival mode a little bit, but West loves to mountain bike, so we're trying to get outside as much as we can, even in the snow, to get him on his bike. And Willa could do her own thing and carry a little toy baby around all day and push a stroller and be content. So she's easy. And then we've got a newborn, and we're doing the newborn life. Sleep, eat, poop, all at the same time, half the time. And
Yep.
Yeah.
I remember seeing a video of West. He was probably like 2, and he was had a little bike, and he rolled off the ottoman or hassock or whatever you call it, and he had a helmet on, I think, and he just went head first, completely crashed, and then he was like nailed
Pop
it
back
or something
up.
like that, nailed it, and
he's still that same kid, just on a bigger jump now.
Yeah, you guys are adventurous. That is amazing. So much fun. All right, I think. Even you have your baby here today. I hear little peeps from her
we'll
every once in a while. No,
stays.
she's doing awesome. She's doing amazing. All right, so we're gonna hop into what do we do for our kids to teach them generosity, right? And we're gonna use a simple definition during this series. Again, it's a 4-week series that we're doing on teaching your kids to live and love generously, and we're gonna use a simple definition of generosity. We took it from the dictionary. It's a readiness to give more of something, as in more of money or time, than is strictly necessary or expected. So we're asking ourselves, how can we help our kids have a readiness to give something?
Yeah.
Again, money or time, whatever. Maybe even more than is strictly necessary or above and beyond the normal, just more than is expected. To give abundantly. Something like that. Kind of, how do we teach our kids to get out of themselves? And that's a deal. As parents, we watch our kids. They start to learn they can advocate for themselves. They can get mine, and we're trying to get them out of that a little bit. So I think before we ask you a little bit of what you've done to help your kids get outside of themselves, I feel like we want to start with the parents a little. How can our parents do that if they themselves aren't outside of themselves a little bit? And I just want to ask you, how have you learned a little bit about generosity in your own life? What's inspired you to be outside of yourself? What maybe something that happened when you were younger, or just how has that journey looked for you as you've become gone into your adulthood and tried to live this out?
That's so good, because I was thinking as you were talking about kids, I can't teach my kids to be generous if they don't see me being generous. And sometimes that's the hardest part. It's more natural for my kids even than me sometimes. So it really does start with us.
It's amazing how they teach us sometimes, isn't it?
I know.
You watch them I probably
wait,
should
I don't think you should
too.
give that. I don't know. We're going to keep that for ourselves, actually.
Yeah.
No, totally. I think generosity for me, a big piece of it is just seeing how richly blessed I am, and then recognizing that so many other people have not received the same things that I've been given. My parents have been so generous with me. Our friends are so generous with us. We just have a very richly blessed life, and I know that the Lord isn't blessing us for the sake of us just hoarding it for ourselves. And so we're being blessed so that we can be a blessing to others. And so I think that's what really fuels my generosity, and has, even as a kid, I was able to see that, that I had friends who didn't have all the things that I had, or I had friends who didn't have parents who loved them in the way my parents loved me. And I wanted to share that. So I think that's a big motivator for me, is getting to share the blessings that I've received.
Yeah. You think that started, you were mentioning as you were a kid, that you looked around and saw other kids not maybe having some of the same things you had. And then you went into adulthood. Do you think that was just a natural progression? Or because, I've watched you care for refugees. I've watched you have jobs and do things even full time to try to get outside of yourself. Do you think there were moments there, or just there was a natural progression for you?
I think my parents did a good job of giving me a wide variety of experiences and getting to grow up around a wide variety of people and seeing different lifestyles. And I think that's what really helped that grow in me. I don't know that there is one specific moment or anything, but I think it just naturally grew in me as I saw how other people lived, as I saw what this world looked like.
Yeah. That's a really good point. I think sometimes we get in our own circles of people. If we're in those same circles all the time, if that's how we view life, you know, even comparing ourselves, like maybe I don't have as many things or as much as somebody living down the street from me because we're all in the same section of town. But as soon as I get outside of that and I see a different culture or I see something else, if I notice that, that can help us as well. So just remembering, hey, I don't want to be in my own space all the time.
Get out of your circle or your normal circle.
Yeah. Do you do anything to try to do that in your own life?
Well, like you said, we do a lot with refugees. And I have for a long time, and that's important for me with my kids. To see other cultures that live here. And in our churches, we have all walks and styles of life, too, that they get to be around. So. You know, we're recording this here in Lincoln, Nebraska, and there's a lot of refugees here in Lincoln. And, you know, it's maybe they don't live across the street from you, but you've actively chosen. Shout out today to Juniper Refuge also, because they're doing awesome things here in Lincoln, Nebraska. But, you know, you've done some things to say, I need to see different cultures. I need to have them around me. I need to have them around my kids. And so let's volunteer here. Let's serve here. Let's work here. Let's in our churches. Let's do that. That's awesome. So again, being around those other cultures, being outside of ourselves doesn't just always happen. We make intentional choices to get ourselves outside of ourselves. Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome.
It takes effort.
Yeah, that's very cool. You were reminding me while you were talking about how we learn from our kids, like that they do things. I was thinking about a story I just want to share. One of my kids, it was his birthday. He was like 7 or 8 years old. And I think he was 8, and we gave him some quarters for, like, I don't know, like he was into somehow we gave him a bunch of quarters. It looked like a lot of money, but it wasn't like a ton of money. But when you're younger, you can make quarters.
If
like
there's a lot of them,
like a
then it must be expensive.
You know, but I think it was quarters. But he got him, and he was so excited. He just started passing them out to everybody, and we're like, no, these are for you. And he gave them to the end, like they were gone. And my parents were like, his grandparents are there, and I remember them like awkwardly like, no, this is yours, you know, we don't want it. And he was so excited to give it. He was just wanted to give it so much. Like he had this money he had never had, and he like, I mean, now maybe we have a different, I don't know, we're trying to have a view of money. We need money, but also he just was so excited about it that you couldn't refuse him. Like he just wanted to give it so bad. He got rid of all of it.
That's so cool though. I love that.
Yeah. And for me, it just was like, wow, like if I trusted my provider, like I think for him, he didn't worry about his money because his parents were providing. Right. But if we trusted God would provide for us, wouldn't we give like that? Like we wouldn't worry, well, I won't have enough tomorrow if I give all of this. And wow, it was just a cool, to me, I learned that day. And
wow, that's really neat.
Yeah, it was sweet. All right, so we're gonna talk a little bit too about, you had mentioned, I asked you, was there any Bible verse that maybe expanded your view of generosity? Anything that stood out? And you mentioned John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his one and only son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life. We know that verse. Why did that verse stick out to you as something about generosity?
Well, for one, it's the only verse I've taught my children right now, but they do have it memorized, and it's really sweet to hear when it comes into their mind. And what the pieces that stand out to them when we were learning it are so different than the pieces that stand out to me. And so when I hear that verse now in my head, I don't just hear, you know, blah, 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 this verse I've known my whole life that can just spew out my mouth, but I hear how my kids say it. When they say, he gave, and they shove their hands out and they really emphasize give. That's what my son Wes does. And Willow, when she says it, she goes, the world. And she says world for so long, but it just makes me think of how great God's generosity is, that it's this whole world. It's all the people who've ever lived. And so the way that they recite John 3:16 has like you're saying, they've
Yeah.
taught me, has emphasized generosity to me because of what they're able to pull out from it, that God gave his most valuable, the most precious thing that anyone has ever given anyone. They gave his son, and it was to the whole world. So the biggest gift to the most people. We can never be more generous than God, but we get invited into following him in that.
Yeah, that's so awesome. It's wild. I actually have studied generosity a lot. I have like written things on it. I've looked at it. We are trying to aim toward that at this organization, but I haven't taken John 3:16
me
as
neither.
one of our,
Not until my kids.
that is amazing. That's awesome. And yeah, you think about it, we could give no greater gift than that.
Right.
And he says that even,
Yep.
and his love is so big and so awesome for us. And then he even sacrifices, I think if we're wondering, can I give up this penny to get this, like we hold on to the smallest of things thinking it's so valuable to us, but he gave up the most precious thing he could give toward us, to love us. And
isn't that what we wrestle with? Like, how generous, how risky can I be in my generosity and still feel secure?
right?
Like, I feel that
Yeah,
tension.
totally.
But when we look at the picture of Jesus, I don't know if risk is the right word, because God isn't risking per se, but he is being generous to the extreme. He didn't hold anything back.
Yeah.
And that's the picture he gives us of what generosity looks like.
Yeah, and it begs the question, what makes us secure?
Yeah,
you
right.
know, like if we risk everything, like hold on to part of it that makes us secure. Is it the
Were we
money
really
that makes us
secure
secure?
anyways? Right.
Right? You know,
Right.
we're trying to remember his love is what makes us secure. He's going to love us.
Totally.
He's going to provide for us. He's going to be
Yep.
there, and then we can give. And it doesn't mean we're foolish. We don't have to, like, we can listen to his voice and give what he asks us to give, not what somebody begs us to give, or we can choose that. He offers us that choice, but he does say, I am abundant. I do have amazing love. I've given beyond anything you can even think to give, right? With that John 3:16.
Right.
So imagine what we could do if we knew that and learned how to live like that, right?
Right.
So
Exactly.
awesome. Yeah, so awesome. All right, I want to shift to some things you've taught your kids then on that, or ways we're trying to do that. And again, all of us is on a journey with this. We don't really know how to do all that. I started the Hope Venture. We've helped like 90,000 people since we started, but the greatest thing I think I've ever done is raise 4 boys. I still think like parenting is huge. Raising up that next generation. So what we're trying to do, it's a lifetime of learning. All right, so I want to talk about ways you've interacted with your kids. I want to start with, I know you've done some things even at the Hope Venture you've let the Hope Venture help you teach your kids generosity. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, this year for Christmas, God just put it on my heart. I was seeing how Christmas for my kids equaled getting presents. They're starting to get to the age where they can be excited and have anticipation, which is so fun. But I saw that their anticipation was around getting gifts for Christmas. And that's fun. They're little. So I wanted to enjoy that. But also I wanted to include some family traditions of giving.
Yeah.
And inviting them into that aspect of Christmas. And so you guys at the Hope Venture just made it so easy, because as I was thinking about this, your like end of the year giving catalog shows up in my mail with pictures and just little easy simple explanations of the things that you can do. And I didn't even give it to my kids. West found it on the counter and started flipping through it.
That is awesome.
And it was so cool. He was asking, what is this? Who are these people? Why is Uncle Josh in this magazine? You know? And so I decided we were going to set aside an evening as a family and just make it fun. So we pulled out the catalog, we set it on the counter, and we made hot chocolate, and we just flipped through it and talked about all the things that the Hope Venture does that are awesome. And this was kind of our first conversation with our kids, talking through some hard things, that the world and people's lives, they don't all look like ours.
Yeah.
There are people that have harder lives than us. There are people who don't have things that they need And we haven't experienced that. And so I wanted to enter into that first conversation, not heavy, not guilting my kids for having things, you know. I didn't want to make it a sad conversation. I didn't want to place the weight of the world on them, but I just wanted to open their eyes a little bit. And so we prayed a lot before that it would be joyful. Awesome. That we would show them, okay, this is the reality. How do we get to be a part of fixing it? How does God invite us into being generous? Yeah. And we just watched some of your videos of your different projects on your website, because you have a video for every project. Yeah. I was amazed when I opened it up, and I just picked 5 projects that I thought my kids could understand that felt age appropriate for them. We watched the videos, and then they each picked one to give. That's
awesome. Yeah, I love that's how we would love it to be used. That's really so cool that you did it like that. I love some of the things you said. You prayed about that time ahead of time. You knew, like, a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, a baby, like that is not going to go easy all the time. Yeah. That's going to be a very short window
for sure
that you're going to have.
But videos, that held their attention.
You knew, okay, we looked around, you checked out our website, realized, oh my gosh, they have a video on every single project. Some of them are like a minute long, but they're just explainers, a little bit of
that's perfect.
A little something a kid could watch. You mentioned, we have a backpack project, goats, mama kits, things like small opportunities that you could invite your kids into. I don't know what the 5 you chose were. What were the 5 you chose?
Let me see. So I know we did mama kits, because that's what my daughter Willa picked for sure. And my son picked backpacks, because he started school this year. So he thought that was cool. So we did those 2. We did goats. I also did one of the feeding projects, maybe the feeding center. And what was the 5th? I can't remember the 5th one.
Yeah, no worries. But listeners, if you're out there and you're wondering, I think Christmas now, we're in January now, so it's a long way to wait for your memory to hold on.
But do it anyways. Do it in February.
Yeah, you can do it anytime. I do think, I guess this is airing in February, so. But I think Christmas is a great time I think it's a chance for us to remind our kids it's not just about getting, it is about giving. Even if they do save this little tidbit of information till November or Christmas, December. I know for us, the catalog, we do always have a catalog at year end because it impacted me years ago. I was a newlywed, and we got a catalog. We gave $45 for a light bulb of a Jesus film thing. Cool. We were so excited. We were broke.
And it doesn't have to be big.
We didn't, have much money. It was all we could do. We saw in there, like, you could give a Jesus film Jeep for $20,000 or whatever. We're like, we're going to do the light bulb for $45, and but I loved the idea of that catalog. That was the first catalog kind of thing that I'd ever gotten. And so when we started the Hope Venture, we've always had like a catalog of opportunities for us to look through and say, what can we do? And we've done the same things with our kids, not just with the Hope Venture, but we've also put other organizations out in front of them, others in our city, others around the world. And you watch your kids, one picks a mama kit, one picks backpacks, one, because they started school. We had a kid that picked soccer balls for somebody, or somebody, wants to secretly get the gospel in through, like secret means or whatever, like different parts of their personality will start to come out, and they say, I think you also mentioned the joy. You wanted them to understand a little bit of the disparity, but not feel so heavy by that they're just weighted down and don't know what to do, right?
Yeah. And I think a big piece of it was letting them choose. Yeah. Not saying, here's what we're doing as a family. This is how we're going to be generous, but giving them the power to say, I feel passionate about school because I got to go this year. I feel passionate about moms, even though I'm 2, because I have a little sister now, and letting them get to capitalize on that. That was really fun to see.
I think that's huge. I think that's really good. And we did that actually all the way through our kids growing up. Every Christmas, we just set aside money, and we told them, all right, you're going to have this much money to do towards this. You can use it however you want. We would sit around a table, and then they would pick. They would look at all these different, we'd save some mailings or save the Hope Venture catalog or whatever, and they would look through it. They'd write down what they want to do, and then we'd go around, because we have 4 boys, and we'd all say, why did you choose that? How much you want to give to that? We're giving this much toward that and this much toward that, and how much do you want to do? And so it's been awesome, to have that opportunity. I think, we didn't tell you that, but your son finds the catalog.
Right.
That is so awesome. And I think the joy is huge too, because I know for us, both my husband and I travel overseas for missionary kind of stuff. And when I started to go, when I had 4 young boys, I didn't want them to say bye to mom and dad, miss mom and dad for 3 weeks. We went for 3 weeks the first one when we had all 4 and went like that. And I remember thinking, I don't want them to feel like, oh, following God is a bad thing. It takes from me. I have to give up my mom and dad, or I have to give up my money. I have to, this sucks, or whatever. It stinks. And so I remember we had actually some women in a Bible study I was in, they offered to get gifts for my kids, and we had a little basket, and once a day while we were gone, they would get and open up a little gift.
Oh, I love that.
We've done little chain things, so they watch the chain unfold. We've had people come and take them out to ice cream. In fact, having mom and dad home was pretty bad.
Boring.
We'll
take the friends. Can you leave again?
Because they got so much ice cream and candy. But because then they started to realize there's joy in this. This isn't taking from me. It's blessing. And I think so often we feel like if I give that, I'm gonna have less. I'm gonna lack. But God says, I'm the one who fills you.
You can't outgive God.
Yeah, you can't outgive God. So really awesome stuff. All right, I wanna just ask you, beyond the Hope Venture, what do you hope your kids take away from some of those experiences, or how do they learn about generosity in all of it, not just with money, even just learning to care about the boy or girl at school sitting next to them at lunch, or, how do you teach your kids, and what do you hope to teach your kids about generosity in a broader sense?
Yeah. I mean, and again, this is a new thing because our oldest is 4, and so we're just entering into having some of these conversations, but it's been really cool just to look for the little simple moments. Like last night, my son, he was eating a few chocolate chips that he got as a reward for cleaning up his toys. And he asked my husband if he wanted some. Dad, do you want some chocolate chips? That's awesome. And he gave Craig some of his precious few chocolate chips that he got. And I was able to say, West, you were just so generous. And he beamed. He just, you could tell he knew. He was proud. Yeah. He was proud that I saw that in him and that he got to do that. And so I think catching those little moments and celebrating them and just saying, generosity is something we are going to celebrate in this family. If it's giving 3 chocolate chips to dad, if it's giving your friend a toy and sharing, or if it's giving money to the Hope Venture, all across the board, we're going to celebrate it. And then, a big piece is we're reading through a kid's Bible with my kids, and we were just reading earlier this week the story of Abraham and Sarah, and how God promised to bless them so that they could be a blessing. Yes. And I got to that and I thought, I don't think I've ever used the word bless in front of my kids. They don't know what this means. And so we just got to have little simple conversations of what blessing means, and now we talk about it when we go about our day. When we see God bless us, we get to say, oh, thanks God for this blessing. And when we get to be a blessing, we talk about it. And so I think just giving our kids language so that they can begin to recognize when people are generous with them and when they get to be generous with others is like the very first building stone that we create, so that they can begin to identify it in the world and in their life. And then we get to keep building as they grow and as they have more capacity and understand more. Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? It goes back to Genesis. God blessed us for a reason to bless other people. And I know, I didn't grow up kind of following God. And I I actually didn't love the word blessed. People only use that in churches that I
right.
knew,
Yeah, it's just this ultra religious.
It just seemed really like, but now I can't get away from the fact that I don't know how else to explain it sometimes when he blesses me, and then I can pour out that blessing to other people, and it's not just for me to hold.
Right.
And if we do have more than 97% of the world, according to statistics, like even in our most poor state here in the U.S., sometimes we have a lot. And if we were in those other cultures and realize, hey, I actually have a lot of blessings, and you start to point out those blessings, like you said, you'll realize, wow, I have to do something with this. I mean, it's partly how the Hope Venture started. I realized I have to do something. I don't know what to do, but I've been given this to be now accountable to it and responsible with it. And I think, I guess I want to ask you, how do you see that? Like, why generosity? Why is it important in our Christian faith to even, why are you celebrating generosity? What about it is so important to you?
That's so good. I think when we look at Jesus's life, you read in the Gospels, you could sum it up with generosity or blessing. You could sum up everything he did in that way. Yeah. And so we get to be a picture of that when we are generous. Yeah. And that's what I'm really hoping my kids can see is generosity is not just things. It's not just money. You can be generous with your time. Yeah. You can be generous with your chocolate chips.
Absolutely.
You can be generous with anything that God has given you, your talents, your whatever, Yeah. But it doesn't have to be our things and our money, because some people don't have things and money and they're still called to be generous too. Right. So it goes, God will expand our definition of generosity as we step into it with him.
Absolutely. We say here that everyone is a giver and everyone's a receiver. There are times when we receive, and so it's not like you give to your kids and they're always receiving. Your kids are learning. I don't have a lot, but I have a few chocolate chips. I can give that, and that is huge. That's the formation of their mind starting to live differently. Yeah. So cool.
And so we celebrate both ends. Yeah. When people are generous with us as well as when we're generous.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. Anything else you want to share with people out there in a similar spot to you? Now, some weeks we're gonna have some older women on here, not to age them here, but people with
more experience,
kids, with a little bit more. We're gonna have some young ones on here, but thinking about, if you were out there listening, anything else you'd want to hear to encourage you we're in the grind sometimes. At that stage you're in, you're tired, you're like, that would be great, but I'm just trying to get my head out of bed today. What would you say?
I think, and I'm saying this to myself right now too, teaching our kids this doesn't have to be a big thing. It doesn't have to be this whole, we planned a whole family evening. Yeah. If sitting down to look at a catalog and making it a special moment is too much. Yeah. Because for me it was too much. I had that idea for weeks before we found time. But if that is too much, just look for the tiny moments, because they're already happening. Yeah. And so you don't need to add something to your life or your schedule. Just begin pointing out when it's already happening. Awesome. And celebrate that with your kids. Yeah. And that will be, honestly, I think, just as impactful as making this whole special event out of it. Yeah. And your kids will see that. They'll see that generosity is celebrated in our family. Generosity must be good. It must be something that I want to be a part of. And it doesn't need to be huge.
Yeah. Yeah. It can be 3 chocolate chips.
It can be 3 chocolate chips and saying, good job, West.
Absolutely. I think... that's so good. And I think I want to leave us with that, because I think, we want to give ourselves a challenge each week when we're hearing this. We want to grow from the moments we turn on a podcast and think like, why would I listen to this? And I think just hearing what you say, maybe this week as you go about your week, you start to notice your blessings. Just notice, start to celebrate generosity. Yeah. Somebody else being it to you, your kids being it to them. Start celebrating your kids and the things they're doing. Point out to them, wow, that was really cool. You shared with your sister. Awesome job. Because those are foundational building block moments where you can celebrate that generosity. You can help them start to live like Christ. They're learning to pour out their lives like he did for us. They're learning John 3:16 by giving their chocolate chips. And I think those small moments are what make this world, if we can tap into those, like you said, start to notice those moments, start to celebrate generosity. Don't do something big if you're not ready for that. Just do something small. I think, so just want to encourage us, if John 3:16 is true and he loved us so much, that's where it starts from. That as parents, if we want to teach our kids all these things, we have to be soaking that in ourselves. And I think I want to challenge parents this week to notice God loving on you.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a lot of hard things coming at us. We're tired. The world is full of heartache. But God does love us, and he is trying to show that to us. And he tried to show it coming as a baby, but even today, even yesterday, even I was thinking, snow, just the fact that he blankets the world with snow, and that might feel like a pain to some moms and dads, but how awesome that he's so big that he could just put this white fluff around the world. Like, that is amazing. He's a good and big God, and he's able to take care of our problems. And I think if we could start to be secure, not in our money, but in the love that the God of the heavens has for us, that's going to affect our generosity. That's going to affect our willingness even to give to our kids. We can think, don't need me right now. I'm tired. Mommy wants to sleep, But like, hey, what if I have 5 minutes to listen to what they're saying to me or whatever? Like, I can learn to give, not because I have so much strength. I don't. But God of the heavens has so much strength. He has love for you. He has love that he wants to offer us. He modeled it to us, and he's wanting to say, hey, Cynci, I love you. Hey, Veronica, I love you. Hey, listener, I love you today, and I have you. I have your back.
Yeah,
I want to take care of you,
Mm-hmm.
So think about this week. We're going to have another podcast next week. I hope these episodes inspire you to live and love generously and to lead your kids to do the same. Have an awesome week. Girl!
Awesome. And I kept thinking she's going to wake up, and she just